Ta-da!
Hello gamers, Matthew here from Grey Army Gaming in lovely Lund, Sweden. For today's episode of A Few Simple Steps, we will be making terrain pieces for Mordheim. Specifically, we will be building crates and boxes out of wood pieces and cardboard. Let's go ahead and show you how these pieces look on the table before we go ahead and show you the steps for how to make them. Before we go ahead and show you the specific steps for how to make these crates, I just wanted to show you the finished product. As you see here, we have a little town square filled with these different shipping crates. And I've gone ahead and made a bunch of different kinds of sizes. We've got some square ones, we've got some longer ones, we've got different cross beams that are at work there. With this one, I even experimented with a little bit of metal to have some sort of metal hinges and a metal latch on the front. And they're really pretty nicely weathered. You can kind of see how there's some nice yellows popping out of there. And what I really like about each one of these is it really is custom made. So there's no single one that is the same. They've got different elements, different sizes, different dimensions. So that will be really good on the battlefield because it will look like a real life setup where things aren't quite ever perfectly the same. And just to give you a little sense of the scale, I put a little Empire soldier here and also an Ogre lead belcher. And you can see here that some of the crates are more fit for smaller people. Some of them fit the scale a little bit better with the Ogres, but you could even imagine something like this big one right here would be a massive shipping crate that even the Empire, the human-sized models could be involved with. Well, there you go. A brief look at how these look when they're all finished up. Let's go ahead and show you the specific steps for how to make them. Alright, here's some of the supplies we're going to need as we get started. First of all, we're going to need a bunch of wood blocks. I went and took some long sticks and cut them into small pieces, various sizes and dimensions. What we're going to use is these more square-like blocks. So a bunch of different size, random size blocks that'll be perfect for this project. Second, we're going to need a bunch of cardboard. In this case, I'm just using cardboard from cereal boxes. We're going to need a scissors to cut it out and just good old white glue to glue it to our blocks. And to finish things off, we're just going to go ahead and paint this up. So we have some various kinds of paints, some browns, some yellow ochre, and we can throw that on with a paintbrush and that'll finish everything off nicely. What we're going to do now to start us off is to take some of this cardstock and we're going to cut it into small strips like this. These little strips are going to be our planks of wood that we are then going to glue onto our wooden blocks. So go ahead and cut out a bunch of these. You're going to need several hundred of these if you're doing several crates. With a good number of planks ready to go here, we can now take one of our blocks and we'll just add a thin layer of white glue at the top. So go ahead and spread that out with your finger and we can go ahead and start adding the wooden planks. Just take one plank at a time. I like to line them up on the left side. Make sure you have the brown side facing upward because that is the more textured side. We don't want any writing or any other strange colors showing up as we start to put together our box. So go ahead and just add those on and put just a little bit of spacing between each. If you push them together so there's not much spacing, that's fine. Different styles for different boxes. And go ahead and just fill this up all the way. With all those planks on, we can go ahead now and flip this over and we will go ahead then and put the planks on the opposite side. Now the reason I do the opposite sides like this is that we can now go ahead once they are dry and we can bring our scissors out here and we will go ahead and cut them off right along the block. Get your scissors right next to the edge of the block and just cut straight across and flip it over to the other side and do the same thing on the other side. And you will be able to see then that we have now two good sides with planks on our wooden block. So let's go ahead now and just keep adding more planks. We'll start here on this side and on the other side and then we'll do our remaining two sides to fill it all up with nice looking planks. So now you can see everything is dry. We've cut all the edges off and we've got now the beginnings of a pretty good looking crate. The next step now is we're going to go ahead and add some cross beams here and here. We'll go ahead and do it on all the sides so we have some beams that come across that hold these planks in place. To do so now, we'll just use the same technique. We'll take a little plank and we'll add some glue on it like this. and then affix the glue here with the plank to the top edge of the crate. And now I like to line it up here on the left side and let it hang over a little bit, and we can go ahead and add the second one here. Okay, we now have those two affixed. I will then go ahead and flip this over. We'll put it down so the glue can dry like this, and then we can go ahead and add a few more planks here. And the reason why we're also offsetting these is that we can go ahead and cut those here and cut those here. And here now is how it's going to look. We have got our planks all around on all sides. Wherever there are planks, we've put cross planks here, like a normal crate would have then to strengthen the sides. The next step we're going to do, and this is a stylistic thing, you could leave it like this and go ahead to the painting, but some of your crates you may want to add cross beams. What we're going to do there now is going to take another plank like this, and we will go ahead and set that across here. This is where you can take your X-Acto knife and just make a little scoring where that cross plank is here and on the bottom. And we can go ahead then and take out a scissors, and we can cut those little scoring pieces off so we can then affix that right there. So here's the little scoring lines you can see there that we have made with our X-Acto knife. We'll take out our scissors here and just cut along those lines, flip it around and cut on the other side. And then we can go ahead and then put some glue on the back side of that and attach it to our crate. There you go, just give it a little push, wipe off any excess glue, and you've got a little cross beam now on your crate. So here we are now with two sides that have cross beams on them, and our basic structure for the crate is finished. Now we can go ahead and paint this up. For this particular paint job now, we're going to want to add quite a bit of water to our paint and really thin it down, because we want to be able to treat this almost like a wash. We want to get into all the cracks and to really cover all the space. So let's add quite a bit of water to this and go ahead and start to add it to our box. You don't have to be too careful. You can really slop it on and add quite a bit of paint. The benefit of using this highly thinned down brown, almost a wash, is that it fills in all the cracks and all the areas between the planks, but it does so in such a way that it doesn't destroy any of the detail. So we get a nice cover over the entire area. Of course, since it is such a thin brown, you're going to have to add a couple layers to it, but as people always say, good painters better than me, a few thin layers are better than one thick layer. So let's go ahead and add a couple more thin layers of this wash-like thin brown to our crate. And a good tip to remember here is to always paint with the grain of each plank. So for example, on this side right here, let's paint on each plank. Don't paint against the grain, but try to keep it nice and even on the grain. And to finish things off now, we'll go ahead and take a little bit of our yellow ochre and do a bit of dry brushing. So we can take some of that yellow ochre, spread it out, get our brush really thin. We want very little paint on there. We're just going to go ahead and hit some accents and some highlights. On your dry box now, we'll go ahead and just start to spread it all over, and you'll hit the sides and you'll hit the middle, and it'll give it a nice golden sort of weathered look. So we'll go ahead and finish this off and show you how it looks when we're done. And now we finished the dry brushing with the yellow ochre, and you can see how the dry brushing effect really does make the crate pop. It really makes it look like an old weathered crate that stood out outside for a long time. Really gives it that extra touch that you need when you're trying to make these boxes.
Well, there you have it, folks. A few simple steps for making crates and boxes for your Mordheim games. These work wonderfully as terrain, and hopefully you'll see them in some upcoming shows. Thank you for joining us here today at Grey Army Gaming, where Grey can always play.